All praises to the Most High. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Yahushai. And I want to say peace and salutations to all the elders out there and apostles of Great Millstone and all the hopeful elect, elders Sagalah and Elder Yahweh, and all the brothers out there bringing out this word with truth and sincerity. I want to say shalom to all of you, all the Akim and all the Akwath. Peace and salutations. And I am servant Ariel, and I'm going to do this lesson titled Make Haste for the Day. And I'm going to start with Psalms 119 and verse 60. And it reads, I made haste and delayed not to keep thy commandments. So that's what we have to do. This is an urgent thing. We can't put it off from day to day. We have to do what the Lord says and do it, while you have a chance, because tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. So we have to make haste and delay not to keep his commandments. The book of Job, chapter 20 and verse 2, and it reads, therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste. Because how are we going to answer? We have to answer to the Most High for what we're doing here. We are under a cloud of witnesses, which I bring out quite often, Hebrews chapter 12. And that's what he said. He said, seeing that we're under such a cloud of witnesses, we have to lay aside every weight and sin that so easily ensnares us. And we have to run this race with endurance. We have to continue running, looking unto Hamashiach Yahushai, which is the author and finisher of our faith. Going back to the book of Psalms, I'm going to going to chapter 116, and I'm going to read verse 11, and it reads, I said in my haste, all men are liars. So this was the king of Israel, David. He said in his haste that all men were liars. Why was he saying this? Because Hamashiach Yahushai was the king. He was the one that came into the world to bear witness and give testimony of the truth. And then let me read the next verse. What shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits towards me? So what do we got to render? He said, render our hearts, is what he said in Joel, to render our hearts and not our garments. So we have to, love the Lord, our God, Yahweh, with all our heart, all our soul, and with all our mind. And then love our neighbor as ourselves. This is what he said. So that's what we have to render. See, he was asking, what shall I render unto the Lord for all his benefits towards me? So we have to render our heart. We got to dedicate. We have to put our bodies up like we're doing as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto the Lord. For this is your reasonable service. I'm going to stay in the book of Psalms, and I'm going to go to chapter 144, and I'm going to read verse 7 and 8, and it reads, send thine hand from above, rid me and deliver me out of great waters, from the hand of strange children. So now David was pleading to the Most High, because he was all these people that he was around were coming in as a flood with all their wickedness, their ideology, and all these different things. So he was asking the Lord to deliver him out of the hand of strange children. Verse 8, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. So what is the truth? Speaking these words. This is the truth. He said, if any man speak, 1 Peter 4 and 11, we have to speak with the oracles of Yahweh. If any man minister, we have to minister with the ability that Yahweh gives us, so that Yahweh may be glorified in all things. So this is what we have to do. The book of Psalms, chapter 70, and I'm going to read verse 1, and it reads, a psalm of David to bring to remembrance. Make haste, O Yahweh, to deliver me. Make haste to help me, O Lord. So that's what we're doing. We're making haste. So when the time comes, when he cracks that sky, we may have a chance of deliverance. So that's what we want. The book of Proverbs. I'm going to go to chapter 1, and I'm going to read verse 15 and 16. And it reads, my son, walk not thou in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path. So who is he talking about? He's talking about the ones that practice falsehood, lies, deceit, the strange children. That's what he's talking about. Verse 16, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. So he's saying to stay away from these people. This is what he's saying. And this is what David was saying, to deliver him out of the hand of the strange children that were doing these, practicing these things. That's what David was pleading for help for. The book of Proverbs, chapter 28 and verse 20, and it reads, Proverbs 28 and 20, a faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. You know why Solomon is saying this? Because Hamashiach Yahushai was saying to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. But if you're chasing the bag and trying to be rich, then your mind is on the carnal things. So he said to seek ye first the kingdom. So not chase, do it the other way around. So we have to let all things be done, like he said with Apostle Paul in Corinthians, decently and in order. That's all he wants us to do, is do it decently and in order. Now I'm going to go to the book of Exodus. The book of Exodus, chapter 34. It's lucky, I'm trying to find that one. Chapter 34 and verse 20. And it reads, Exodus, Salakia, 34 verse 8. Salakia for that. It's 34 verse 8. And it reads, and Moses made haste and bowed his head toward the earth and worshiped. So what was Moses doing here? He was praying reverence to the Heavenly Father, the Adawan, Yahweh. That's what he was doing here. He made haste to get down and worship and show his reverence, give him his reverence. That's what he was doing here. And this lesson the Lord put together in my spirit is titled, Make Haste for the Day. So we have to make haste for the day of the Lord and make sure that our calling and election is sure. So we got to make sure we're doing the things that are pleasing in his sight. The book of Luke, and I'm going to go to chapter 19 and verse 6, and it reads, and he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. So if Moses was being obedient to, I'm sure he was, because he was given the law, statutes, and commandments. So the Lord came and received him joyfully. So he does. Now we know that the Lord, he doesn't listen to no sinners. So Moses must have been, but if he says, but if any man be a worshiper of Yahweh and doeth his will, him he heareth. So Moses must have been doing things, doing the will. And then let me read verse 6 again. And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. The book of Psalms, chapter 70 and verse 5. The book of Psalms, chapter 70, and I'm going to read verse 5. And it reads, but I am poor and needy. Make haste unto me, O Yahweh. Thou art my help and my deliverer. O Lord, make no tarrying. So this was David pleading and asking the Lord to help him and come and deliver him. And if we call up, says if we call upon him, he is going to answer if you're calling upon him in truth, if you're being obedient. Because what is the truth? He said, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. So if you're being obedient to the laws to the best of your ability, then he's going to answer you, because he loves obedience rather than sacrifice. The book of Exodus, chapter 10, going back to Exodus, chapter 10 and verse 16, and it reads, then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord, your God, and against you. So here's a time when Pharaoh, he realized that he messed up, and he was asking for forgiveness from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the only true and living God. And he was asking Moses. He realized that he had sinned against the only God, because he knew that the ones he was worshiping was idols. Let me read that verse 16 again. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. So Pharaoh realized that he was dealing with the Ottawan, and he knew that he had to make amends because he seen all the things that were happening over in Egypt with the locusts and the sea. He made the Nile one Nile blood red, and he killed the firstborn of Egypt. So he realized that there was something going on that was a higher power than himself, and he realized who he was up against. The book of Isaiah, and I'm going to go to chapter 49 and verse 17, and it reads, Thy children shall make haste, thy destroyers and they that made thee waste shall go forth of thee. So this is what was going on in the time of Pharaoh at that time, because he realized he had the children of Israel, which he knew that was the people of the Most High Yahweh, and he knew he had to set them free. Because when he was asking Moses, when he pleaded with Moses and says, I have sinned against you and against your God, he knew that that was the only true and living God. He knew that all the other ones that he was doing and trying to worship was idols. He realized it at that moment. And shalom to the Malak Micah Allah, Yahweh Bashem, Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, Barakatham to you and your household. Good to see you in the chat. And now I'm going to go to the back to Exodus, chapter 12, and I'm going to read verse 33, and it reads, And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we be all dead men. So this is what these people here in this spiritual Egypt, they're too stiff-necked and puffed up with pride and pompous. They're not going to do this. But back at that time, and that's Egypt, Pharaoh, he realized what was going on after he seen the locusts and he seen the firstborn of all the firstborn men. They all started dropping dead, and then all the pestilence that the Most High sent in that land. So he was trying to get them out of there. He realized what had happened. But then there was a time where he still got puffed up and then sent his army after, our Yasharallah, and then they all got drowned in the sea because his pride had got the better of him even then after he released the Israelites. And now I'm going to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 52 and verse 12, and it reads, For you shall not go out with haste, nor go by flight, for the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your reward, because he's going to be that rewarder to those that diligently seek him. That's why we're going to continue to seek him. We're going to stay steadfast and be unmovable. Yahweh willing, we're going to stay steadfast and continue running this race, like he said. And this is what he wants us to do. He wants us to make haste for the day, for his day, and to make sure that, our calling and election is sure. We don't want to give up and throw in the towel when we see that, the day approaching. The book of Isaiah, chapter 28, we're going to go to verse 16, and it reads, Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. So if you're trusting in our Lord and Governor, this is the rock. This rock was the rock that this stone was the stone that the builders, they had rejected, but this was the rock. This is a sure foundation. This is a Mashiach Yahushai. So this is one that you can stand on him. This is a sure foundation. It's not going to crumble if you stand on this foundation. The book of Psalms, chapter 31, and I'm going to read verse 22, and it reads, Psalms 31 and verse 22, For I said in my haste, I am cut off from before thine eyes. Nevertheless, thou heardest the voice of my supplications when I cried unto thee. And that's what we want. We want to make sure when we take it to the throne of grace that he will hear our cries. And he says he's gonna, his eyes is over the righteous and his ears is open unto their prayers. I'm paraphrasing what he said through Peter, but he said, but his face is against those that do evil. So if you're being obedient, you can go to the throne of grace to obtain mercy and find help in a time of need. And shalom to the Malak Hawashaya, Yahweh Bashem and Mashiach Yahushai, Barakatham to you and your household. And now I'm going to go to Psalms chapter 40. Psalms chapter 40. And I'm going to go to verse 13. And it reads, be pleased, O Lord, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. So this is like a prayer. This was like poetry, and David was like a poet too. And you can look at some of these as like prayers. You can pray on with these scriptures. Say these words in your prayers. This is what David was doing. You know, David was a man after Yahweh's own heart. And that's what we want to be. We want to be men after Yahweh's own heart. And the women too. They should be women after his own heart too. I'm going to stay in the book of Psalms 40. And I'm going to jump up to verse 3 to 5. And it reads, and he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear and shall trust in the Lord. So a lot of people, they're going to, you know, when they start seeing how he brings this place down in every nation, how they start, when they start to crumble, they're going to realize who's doing this. Then verse 4 says, blessed is that man that maketh the Lord his trust, and respected not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. And then verse 5, many, O Lord, my God, Yahweh, are thy wonderful works, which thou hast done, and thy thoughts, which are towards us. They cannot be reckoned upon, Salakia, be reckoned up in order unto thee. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered. So we can't count those, how many times he's blessed us, you know, how many things he's done. We can't count how many times he's been there for us through the years. Even when we were in the mud and the mire, he was still there watching over us, even when we weren't living right. And now that we've turned and come into the newness of life, now the Lord is really, he's going to bless you even more. That's why David said he couldn't count how many times, you know, of his wonderful works. And I see Micah Allah has Psalms 9 and verse 17 and 18. And it reads, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget Yahweh. Yeah, that's right. That's what's going to happen to them. And they're all starting to get that. They're all starting to fall, coming out of their power seat, and they're going to that hell state. That's where they're all going now. And then it says in verse 18, for the needy shall not always be forgotten. The expectation of the poor shall not perish forever. Because the Lord, he said, remember in Jeremiah 29 and 11, he says he knows the thoughts that he has towards us, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give us an expected end. So that's what it is. We're expecting a good end for doing this work. We're expecting a good end from the Most High. And then Psalms 9 and 19, it says, arise, O Lord, let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight. So yeah, that's it. That's the prayer, for him to take care of all the adversaries, all of them. That's what our prayer is now, and to get us out of this captivity. And shalom to the Malak Angel Padilla, Yahweh Bashem and Mashiach Yahushai, Barakatham to you and your household. Good to see you in the chat. And I'm going to go to the book of Luke, chapter 19, and I'm going to read verse 4 through 10. Let me grab that. Luke chapter 19, Salakia. And I'm going to start at verse 4 through 10, and it reads, and he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him. Wait, let me go up with this. Let me start at verse 3. Let me start at verse 3 here. Let me just go up. I'm going to start at verse 1 in this. And Yahushua entered and passed through Jericho. This is Luke 19, starting at 1. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. Verse 3, and he sought to see Hamashiach Yahushua, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. So he was trying to get through these all these people, and he couldn't get through. And then verse 4 says, and he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. So he was trying his best to see Hamashiach, but it was so many people, he couldn't get through the crowds. Verse 5, and when Yahushua came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. So then it reads on, verse 6, and he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. Verse 7, and when they saw it, they all murmured, saying that he was gone to be guest with a man that is a sinner. Verse 8, and Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore him fourfold. Verse 9, and Yahushua said unto him, this day is salvation come to this house, for as much as he also is a son of Abraham. Now, all these people that had seen Zacchaeus, they were discrediting him because he was kind of well off, but his heart was right with the Lord. This is why the Lord said he is just like, he's one of the sons of Abraham too, because he's confessing his sins. That's what he was really saying, because Zacchaeus was rich, but he was trying to be obedient by giving money to the poor. But they thought because he was so well off that he didn't deserve to have mercy. But that's not what happened here. In verse 10, for the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. So this is where I wanted to get to. This is the main point. He came to seek and save those which is lost. So we were lost. We were out there in the mud and the mire. We were lost, but now we're found. So all praises to the Most High. You know, if you can look at that passage, I always enjoyed that passage in Luke with Zacchaeus coming out of that sycamore tree. It's just a good depiction of people that, you know, the people that are well off, they can get salvation, but they have to put that pride down and actually repent and be converted. But a lot of times when people are well off with a lot of money, they're too pompous and arrogant. But Zacchaeus, he wasn't. As you can see in that passage, Zacchaeus wasn't. He made haste he delayed not to go and see the king, and he repented. And so he got salvation. So with that, I hope everyone was edified from this lesson. You know, I just want to say the Wada Abanawa for putting another lesson together. You know, every time I'm seeing everyone is just encouraging each other. Everyone putting a lesson and is doing their lives all back to back. It's encouraging to see the brothers continue to do it. And it's just, it seems like it keeps lighting a fire that you'll see another, I could be watching Micah Allah. And then I'm like, oh man, I got to get out. I got to do a lesson, or I got to go hit the highways. It's like it just pushes you. So we got to keep encouraging each other and exhorting one another daily. So this work, man, just continue doing it. We're almost there. So we got to continue doing this work. And I want to say the water to all the Aquas, and all the Aquas continue doing this work as well, because you guys are doing some important work too. All the Aquas and all the Malachium. And I want to say peace and salutations to all the elders, Elder Yawakal, Sagalah, and the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and all the hopeful elect. Just want to say continue doing what you're doing. DTA, peace to the kings and princes of Bible Ball, and Shalom.